Hello in another dose of skills in Panzer Rush. Today we'll be talking about a wagon. I will show you how to use it, how not to use it, and how to defend from it. So here we are talking about a wagon train as per request of one of my dear subscribers. The question was how to use it and especially how to defend from it. So let's start from a raw data. Now the firepower 150 to 3750. Now to understand these numbers we need to read the description of the train. And the description is good against ground units, and it has twice weapons range if the target ground unit is firing. So what it means in other words is that any ground units, tanks, APC, cars or what have you, it will be treated with 3750 damage. Okay? Now if you use other trains or boats, they're gonna get 150 damage, and obviously any aircraft or any air units, obviously it will not shoot at. The next thing is armor. Now the armor is 500, which is actually very weak. These trains are not meant to be in the front line, and this is what you have to remember. Weapon range. Now this is probably the biggest asset of that train. The weapon range is 18, which is the highest range in the game. There's only one more vehicle which has that range, and this is a B-12s, also a train. Now, when you have a range of 18, when the other vehicles are shooting, that range doubles, which makes it 30 in total. I just wish I could see your facial expression right now. 30? What do you mean 30? 18 plus 18 isn't 30. Okay, so that was a little digress of mine, just not to keep it too boring. Anyway, weapon range, double range of 18 is of course 36. Now that range will outrange any of the ground units, and that includes cats, which has a total range of the firing target of 30, because their normal weapon range is 10, but when the enemy is firing, that range multiplied by 3, which makes it 30. So Wagons, in terms of the ground units, is probably the best weapon to get rid of the enemies from the distance. Now, sight, speed and the fuel, I'm not gonna be really talking about it. I don't think this is relevant. Sight of 21 is quite high, but it is what it is. The speed and the fuel is okay, and there is nothing really to talk about. So really the next point would be the military point, which is only 50. Now bear in mind, speaking of the groups, you will have 7 groups. So when you have 7 groups, that means that the total or the full train is gonna cost you 350 military points, which is, to be honest, a very good number. Just to compare with, for example, King Tiger, the King Tiger just one is 275 military points. Just one. And here you've got 350 military points for 7, and the 7 where each wagon is taking over 3000 damage. So not bad, not bad. Okay, and the last thing is the cost of it. 850,000 of steel and 150,000 of aluminium, which is really cheap. It's really cheap compared to what you actually get in. The amount of power beyond that is absolutely freaking awesome. Freaking awesome, my friends. Let's start from how to properly use wagons. So we have to remember the wagons has the longest weapon range. So depends on the circumstances and what sort of battle you're planning to do. Generally, you would keep the wagons behind the heavy troops because of their weak armor. Okay? However, if you are trying to snipe your enemies, as it happened to me on map 1164 at some point where we were fighting with Mustangs, they basically literally wiped out our entire army overnight. And they've done it using the wagons. And you simply place the wagon in the safe distance, and then you just send breaders. You send breaders, the enemy troops start shooting at the breaders, and obviously your wagons just keep wiping all the enemy troops very, very easily. Especially if you've got a couple of groups of wagons, that will go even faster. So this is the main way you should use that. Now, quite often when, let's say, you're boring, there's not much happening on the map, and you found some troops along the train tracks, you could send one set of a wagon, but remember, always send a BP-44 along with that, because otherwise you have no protection from the air. And once you are away from your base, on your own, which is like a wagon only, and the enemy will spot that, they will send anything and you're basically defenseless. So always send the BP-44 along with the wagons. And to be honest, a wagon and BP-44, that couple is actually quite powerful. They are, in my opinion, perfect match. They're like, let's say, Bonnie and Clyde, if you know what I mean. The only thing which can destroy you relatively easily would be TW-51, which is the train designed against other trains. Okay, so how not to use a wagons? Now, this is very easy, actually. If you think about it, if your armor is very weak, you don't really use these trains as a bite. Because if you go against especially a large amount of troops, wagons are gonna die very quickly, and they can barely do any damage to the enemy. They will be gone as quick as I am in World of Tanks. Okay, and lastly, how to defend from wagons. So when you are attacked by a wagon, so you've got an army which has a wagons nearby, really the best thing against them is TW-51. It's the train designed to destroy other trains. The important thing to know about TW-51, what you must remember, is that the weapon range of that train is only 12. However, when the train is shooting, their range we multiply by 3. That gives us 36 weapon range on a firing train, which is pretty much exactly the same as a wagon against the troops. So what you need to do, you need to bring the TW-51 relatively close to the wagons or to the enemy troops, and bite the wagons with some other troops. The best troops to do the bite are breeders, because not only they come in large quantities, it's 47 breeders in a group, but also their weapon range is 10, which is a sort of the highest weapon range in any ground troops without, extra double ranges when something firing. So that is, in my opinion, the best way to get rid of the wagons. Now, when you have wagons on their own, and as I mentioned earlier, if you see the enemy's wagons sniping your troops, just send the air units, okay? They are absolutely defenseless against the air units. However, if your enemy is, smarter, then they will have a protection over their wagons. So you need to bear that in mind. Now, the other thing, the other troops which are very good against the trains, and this is not only a wagons, not only against a wagons, but also any other trains, are cats. Now, if you have a couple of groups of cats, obviously you have to remember the cats requires ammunition. Now, the cats are actually very powerful against trains. They can actually wipe out all the trains relatively quickly as long as they've got ammunition. Another troops which you can use to actually destroy the wagons would be LTs. Now, LTs comes in 37 groups, and they are strong against trains. The only problem with that is that normally when you're playing against, especially the players who played this game before, they know that they wouldn't leave the wagons on their own. So there will be some willies around it, or bredas, or some sort of troops which you would have to go through to get to a wagons. And obviously by the time you get through, bunch of wheelies, you will be pretty much gone. So really the best thing, if you are fighting against stronger players, you need to have TW51s ready, and therefore you will be able to get rid of those wagons. There is one more way to get rid of the trains, which is send a bunch of BP-44s and they will wipe out everything, like in this footage. Unfortunately, for those who are playing this game, or for those who are new to these games and you're watching this video right now, I can tell you that Studio Hope has changed game mechanics, and now BP-44s, they don't do as much damage to other trains or troops than they used to. So what you're seeing in this footage is no longer achievable, unfortunately. It still look cool though. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe. There got to be 1 million subs next year this time. And I will see you in the next one.